Hi, I'm Shelley Fold-Nasso, CEO of the National Coalition for Cancer Survivorship. And in this video, I'm going to share about a worksheet to help you hone your story to prepare for your Hill visits. So as advocates, you are experienced in telling your story, and it's a little different when you tell your story to legislators because you have a very short time period to share your story. So you really have to hone it. What's important to know is your voice really does matter. Sharing your story helps you connect with your legislator and helps drive them to action. They're not expert on all issues, and they look for ways to better understand what's important to their constituents. And they are interested in data and statistics and facts, but the stories are really what reaches their heart and sort of explains the need for the policies that we're going to be advocating for. So they may not agree with your arguments or what you're asking for, but they can't argue with your unique personal experience. So we created this worksheet about telling your story and to really tie your story into the legislation that we're going to be advocating for, the Comprehensive Cancer Survivorship Act. This worksheet helps you to tell your story in 1 to 2 minutes, which is all the time you really have in a meeting. Usually your meetings are going to be short. You might have several advocates in a meeting. And so you need to be able to tell your story quickly so that everyone has a chance to talk and that you get to the point of the meeting where the person you're meeting with can ask you questions about your experience and about the legislation. So there's obviously times when, as an advocate, you're going to tell a longer version of your story if you're giving a talk. But in these meetings, it needs to be short. So this worksheet will help you to really hone that. So what we're asking you to do is take some time before you get to Washington, D.C. to go through this worksheet and write out your answers and hone your story and practice it so that once you get there, you're ready to go and you can actually share it with the people who will be going on meetings with you. So there's 6 questions, and I'm just going to go through them quickly with you. So first, you just introduce yourself and say where you're from. If you're in a meeting with a member of Congress or their staff, it's really important to identify yourself as their constituent. You will be grouped with other people in the meeting, so you may be attending meetings where you're not the constituent. So it's always important for the person or people in the meeting who are the constituent to lead the meeting and identify that they are the constituent. And then you say, my life changed when. And this is when you describe either your diagnosis or if you're a caregiver, your experience caring for your loved one. So here's a couple of examples that kind of give you an idea of how to do it. But again, it's going to be short, a couple of sentences here. Not the whole story of your treatment, but kind of when you were diagnosed and what, kind of a key point from that you want to share with your legislator or their staff members. So then you say, fortunately, and then talk about what you had, the kind of support that you had, the kind of help that your care team gave you, or if you were able to get some financial assistance, or you had mental health support, or whatever it might be that you received that maybe not everybody else has, and that's part of why we're advocating for this legislation to help support people to make sure that everyone has access to the best care. And then you go into, it would be easier if. And then you can talk about like something in the bill that you think would have helped you if you had it. So in another video, we share more of the details about what's in the legislation. There's a lot in this bill. You don't have to know all of it. There's a few key things that we're going to recommend that you talk about. But if there's something that really resonates with you, that you're with your experience, and that if you had this, it would have helped you, then you can talk about that. So when you say it would have been easier if, and then you can talk about if you had access to a cancer care plan to really guide you in your treatment and your post-treatment experience, or if you had support for transportation or financial assistance. And then you're taking it from your experience to the bigger picture. So I'm not alone. There's 18 million Americans who are cancer survivors like me. And so that's where you sort of take it from your experience to why we're here advocating for this legislation. And then finally, the ask is, can you help by co-sponsoring the Comprehensive Cancer Survivorship Act? So if you start by just answering each of these questions, and then you weave it together into your short version of the story. If you do this before you come and bring it, then you'll have a chance to share that with others and even, get some feedback and hone that story. It's just a nice little formula to make it simple to share your story and to tie your experience into the legislation and why this is so important to help other cancer survivors and caregivers. So a few things about perfecting your story: you can practice doing it, time yourself, make sure to keep it under 2 minutes. If it's 1 minute, even better. Keep it vivid and share some memorable details. You skip content that's overly detailed or distracting. You don't need to go into the whole story of your diagnosis and any challenges that you face. You want to keep it short and to the point. There's other venues for that, of course. It's an important part of your story. But in these meetings, when you have 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and several people in the meeting, you have to keep it short. So kind of keep it to the most important details. And ask others for feedback. You can do that before you get here or when you get to DC and you'll have a chance to share it. You can use that feedback from others to help hone your story. I know sometimes it can be really nerve-wracking to go into these meetings. So if you practice a little bit, it helps you overcome any nervousness, and then you can be energetic and passionate. And once you've done it, if you've never been to the Hill meetings, once you realize that they're there to listen to you, they don't have to agree with you, but they are there to listen to you as their constituent, you'll realize that you have an important voice, and it's a powerful voice. And that's why you're coming to Washington, D.C. to share with policymakers. Good luck, and we look forward to seeing you in a few weeks.